or something crazy.
Okay.
All right. Hey guys, we are here with Yasmine Ariel.
Okay.
They do all kinds of incredible thing with electro products to kind of to take care of your electromagnetic field so that you can have all kinds of things, all kinds of better balance and all of those issues. She's going to talk more about that because she knows all about that. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Hi. Um, well, as you said, my name's Yasmine, and my company is Quantum Tech USA. And as you said, we specialize in devices that support the body's electromagnetic functioning. And the way that we really approach that is as the body's communication system. Because the way that neurons fire in the brain, the way that messages travel along the central nervous system, this is electromagnetic activity. It's one of the reasons why we're so affected and impacted by the electronics in our environment. It's a delicate system, and it's one of our critical systems before anything occurs. There is an electromagnetic pulse of information that travels through the brain, that travels through the body in order for that activity to occur. And so the principle is that anything that we can do to support that part of our functioning, that critical first component of any activity in the body, anything that we can do to support that is going to make everything that the body is trying to accomplish, whether it's an involuntary process like digestion or a conscious task that we're engaged in, everything will be made more efficient and effortless and more in harmony with the way that we were designed to function when we support that part of our functioning, the body's communication system, the body's electromagnetic functioning.
So I think it's neat. You guys work a lot with athletes, right? And better performance, which is really neat. Is that those really how they're able to do what they do so much better than other people is all of that. It's the electromagnetics. It's their brain telling their body to move faster or whatever the sport is. They can do that because they can get their mind in that place where they're in flow, where they're no longer thinking about those things. They're just acting. Their bodies just perform it. And that has everything to do with electromagnetics, right? It has everything to do with those impulses in your brain that allows you to be in that flow state, to really get there and do things. This was a long time ago. I did some, I fought professionally in mixed martial arts, but I took a class one time called Executive Defense Tactics. And one of the things that we did, it was bodyguard training. So one of the things that we did was gun defense. And what you find is that there's an impulse from the brain that goes to your finger, the trigger on a gun, right? There's about a second delay when you think it from when it comes and you pull, you're actually able to squeeze the trigger. So you have 1 second to move your body during that interaction to get out of the way and do that. It's amazing how long that second is if you're conscious of that and aware of that. It's really interesting. So, really, I've been in a unique place to see that and to see how that affects people because I've been at, higher levels of sports and things like that to really feel that flow state.
Yes, athletes were one of the first kind of subcultures to really clue into the advantages of this technology because it's so easy to measure. And somebody who is very conscious and in tune with how fast they can run, how deeply they can stretch, how accurately they can make a shot, can very easily compare the advantage when they are exposed to this type of technology. And then it's very easy also to calculate how accelerated the progress is once a person has this advantage. They can go deeper into their sport and they can progress much more efficiently, more rapidly. You can also measure accelerated recovery rates and, capability to engage in the next task more rapidly, or simply recover from exertion, injury, greater stamina, because we're not expending or wasting as much energy or effort in order to accomplish the same tasks as well.
Mm. Yeah, we all, all of us need to make sure that we're taking care of our recovery. Whether you're a professional athlete out there really, pushing your body to the limit, or whether you're, just going to work every day, right? There's a certain strain on our body that takes, and taking that time to really recover, and that encompasses lots of different things. It encompasses what we're eating, the amount of sleep that we're getting, the quality of sleep that we're getting. So finding ways to even enhance that. And that's really what the products do. They really take that and they enhance those things. They allow you to get deeper into those and really affect your system so that you can recover faster, so that you can get better at that. So I think that is amazing.
Absolutely. And so what we found is that when we are exposed to high levels of electromagnetic pollution, which are the massive amounts of positive ions being generated by our electronics, the amplified low frequencies that we broadcast through all of our habitated spaces now with cell towers and Wi-Fi. It's just a fact of our modern environment that we are exposed to ever increasing levels of electromagnetic pollution generated by all of our wonderful conveniences. And what this does essentially is it interrupts the way that our body's communication system operates. The way that signals get sent and received can be interfered with. And so what happens is we end up needing to expend a lot more effort and energy in order to accomplish the same task. If the brain is trying to send a message in order to heal a certain area, and those signals are getting interrupted, what happens is the brain needs to repeat those signals. It needs to shout louder. We need to expend a lot more effort in order to accomplish that task. And so that also builds up, it adds up, and really impacts our stamina in general, because we're expending so much more energy and effort in order to accomplish everything. And it also affects how rapidly we recover from the exertion, how rapidly our body is able to jump back and repair itself, and replenish supplies, basically.
Yeah, that makes me think of one time I was really long endurance events, like 60, 70 hours. And I went in the summertime and I did an endurance event in Vermont. It was difficult, but I finished it fairly easily. I didn't realize in doing that is the snow makes a big difference, right? It's like walking in sand all the time. And I think that, that's kind of a good metaphor for what we live in, right? We live in this space where we constantly have these things that are attaching themselves to us, these electromagnetic things that are attaching themselves to us. And if we're not able to wipe that away or get it away from us, then we're not able to do what we need to do as well. Because when I was there in the snow, it was like I lasted 30 hours instead of 60. And I couldn't finish because my body just couldn't handle it, because I was trudging through so much stuff. It just took a toll on my entire system, and my system started to shut down. So if we're not able to interrupt that frequency and that pattern, then we're not able to continue moving forward at the same rate that we would be able to if that wasn't there.
Absolutely. There is a lot that our bodies have to deal with and compensate for and make up for. And so we're, again, expending far more resources And that's a good analogy, like trudging through snow or trudging through sand. There's a lot more weighing us down than we are actually conscious of. And one of the things that we do when we're working with people face to face is we'll do muscle tests, like a balance comparison without a device than with a device, or a core strength exercise that really allows a person to just very quickly compare with and without. And people's typical reaction is shock at how significant and obvious the difference is. You use the analogy of trudging through snow or sand. I often think of it as like when you're talking on a cell phone or you're video chatting, and there are hiccups in the connection, and not everything the other person says gets heard, and so we're naturally left guessing and filling in the gaps. And it's a terrible waste of energy and resources. And the other component is that we're not actually accessing the resources that we have available to us in their entirety. And this is also a huge drain on our overall energy levels, this lack of access, this inability to actually use the muscles available, to use the energy levels, to convert the food into energy as efficiently as we could, to sleep as deeply as we need to in order to get the healthy kind of sleep that we need. All of those functions are impacted.
I think I mentioned this on another interview. We had talked about sleep too, which was really interesting to me because they sponsored me for a while called REMFit, and they do sleep tracking, right? So I wore this device when I went to sleep to track my sleep and to see where I was at, and it was incredible. Like, I don't require a lot of sleep to function, right? And typically, I get about 5, 6 hours of sleep a night. But what I found when I was tracking that is I literally fell asleep in 5 minutes. I dropped straight into deep sleep, and I stay there for the entire 4 to 5 to 6 hours. And then in 5 minutes, I'm awake, fully awake, ready to go. And it is unique because most people go up and down in their sleep cycle, and I don't. I drop immediately into deep sleep. It's very, very rare that I move up and down at all when I'm sleeping, which gives me a competitive advantage and why my body recovers so much better than a lot of other people, why I don't get sore a lot of times when I'm working out. My body is so efficient at taking care of that and making sure that my body is where it needs to be in recovery, that I don't deal with some of the typical issues that a lot of people deal with. They go to the gym and, they're struggling with lactic acid buildup because they've worked out so hard. But a lot of that is because they're not able to recover the way that they need to because they're not sleeping very well. They're sleeping comparatively maybe an hour or two in really deep sleep, where I'm getting 5 or 6 hours in deep sleep, where my body is doing nothing but repairing itself, which was really cool for me to find out that there are trackers out there that you can see that,
Yes.
and you can really record that. It's very helpful to know that your body has that capability. Like, your body can heal itself. You just have to give it the tools to be able to do that.
And what I love about the way that we express this technology is in the myriad of applications possible. A necklace like this necklace that I'm wearing, this is what we call our X100 necklace. This is made from a carbonized form of titanium that's hyperconductive. It supports the way that messages get sent and received. It helps to ensure the integrity of that signal transmission. When worn directly against the body, it stimulates circulation, first local to the device. And within about 4.5 hours, that improved circulation reaches the whole body. It also stimulates nerve endings to produce natural pain relieving components. So you can use it for increased circulation. You can use it for pain relief. You can actually wrap it around your right wrist at night to stimulate the acupressure points in that area that actually stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of our brain that is associated with generating the hormones that allow us to actually drift off and have healthy sleep at night. And so there are so many ways and levels that this technology can be accessed and applied. You know, in connection with endurance and your experience in that endurance exercise. Sabina Pullins is one of the athletes that we worked closely with when we first started to develop this X100 necklace. And she actually wore the necklace for the first time running a 26-mile marathon, the Amica Marathon that happens every year in Seattle, Washington. Typically around 1,500 runners run that marathon, and she'd never won a marathon in her life, but she is an experienced runner. She actually teaches and helps to train others in endurance. So this is really something that she works on and focuses on. And one of the things that she mentioned to us was that right around the 20-mile mark is typically when she would feel a wall kind of hit her. Well, that's when her endurance training really kicks in, and you know, you have to just power through those last miles. And she was ready for it. But the first time that she ran that marathon wearing this X100 necklace, what she reported afterwards was that when she reached that 20-mile mark, she didn't feel that wall. She hadn't nearly reached the end of her endurance. And when she got to the finish line, she won. She won the first marathon that day. And not only did she win, it was 5 minutes before the next runner crossed the finish line after her.
Wow.
So this is just another example of what happens when you apply this technology to an area that you also invest in. You can enjoy the passive advantages. You don't need to be an athlete in order to enjoy the health benefits and the higher energy levels and the greater focus. But if you are an athlete, if you do apply this advantage in specific ways, there are very significant, measurable advantages. When students are exposed to this type of technology, then inevitably test scores improve. And what's interesting is that there's a direct relationship to how much of our potential we're actually accessing. So you're going to see a small increase in the best learners. They're already tapping into their large potential, or a large majority of their potential as learners. You're going to see an even greater increase in average students. The largest jumps in testing are with students that are actually labeled learning disabled and autistic students, and more significantly challenged students. And that directly has to do with the ability to access the information available to us in conjunction with memory and split-second reaction time, and the ability to really utilize the information at hand.
Yeah, I think lots of times my son has a sensory disorder, so on the autism spectrum, and a lot of that is misfirings in the brain, right? It's the electromagnetics of your brain that is firing in a place where it shouldn't be. So it makes it hard for your brain to access those things to be able to really respond the way that you're supposed to, or it'll fire in a place where you're not supposed to respond, and people act out and all kinds of other things happen. The other thing I was thinking, as you were saying that, is we've talked a lot about, in the whole paranormal field, they talk about, EMFs, the electromagnetic fields, and the computers and, the breaker boxes and stuff like that give off a huge electromagnetic field, right? And how that influences us, it causes headaches, it causes paranoia, it causes dizziness. So as we're around all of these electronic devices and they're affecting us and we're feeling that, I think that this is something, as it interrupts that pattern, is very helpful for that, in reducing the headaches that you might have because there's large EMF fields around you. I think it's really important for that.
Absolutely. This is a huge area, and people are actually becoming more and more sensitive. And as we also understand better the confluence between our neurological health and our mental health, our psychology, our psychological health, then we also become aware of the different ways that we can support and eliminate that interference. It's when you walk under power lines, when you're standing by a cell phone tower, you can feel it in your body. It's not something, it's not a metaphysical phenomenon. It is a very physical thing that you can actually feel in your body. And fortunately, the awareness of how significant this is, and also the ways that we can eliminate that interference and protect ourselves from those effects is also becoming more common knowledge. And that's one of the things that we really work on, is educating the public. There are natural, affordable, accessible ways to eliminate this interference and really support this part of our functioning through minerals that have electromagnetic property and generate negative ions, which help to rebalance the positive ions that we're generating with all of our devices. We have both positive and negative ions in our body's electromagnetic field, in our electromagnetic makeup. We tend to run more towards the positive end of the spectrum, and it's one of the reasons why we benefit from an abundance of negative ions in order to keep a healthy balance and in order to support our body's communication system and the way that neurons fire, and to ensure that they do arrive at the proper receptors. So introducing high levels of negative ions back into the environment is one way that we can rebalance our immediate electromagnetic environment and eliminate the interference and the interruption that causes. We can also employ beneficial frequencies that help to combat the frequencies that we are broadcasting in our environments now, and that affect our body's frequency. Everything vibrates. Everything is frequency. That's just a fact. And the vibrations, the devices, the objects around us. And this is also a physically felt phenomenon that, when you're conscious of, you can't ignore. And so one of the principles behind using beneficial frequencies is that we evolve to vibrate in relationship to Earth frequency. And it's becoming rare for a lot of people to actually come into contact with Earth, naked, bare skin to bare Earth. It used to be our 24/7 condition for millions and millions of years. But now we spend most of our lives wearing shoes on paved surfaces. And so it's one more factor, one more phenomenon that our bodies have to deal with and compensate for. And so we can also create devices that actually have frequencies that, when we come into contact with them, help to put us back into the optimal range for the human frequency. And this has also been found to be a huge advantage to our health. And so there are many ways that we can eliminate the interference or rebalance our immediate environment, and support our functioning so that our bodies can actually accomplish what they were designed to accomplish, to heal and regenerate, and thrive.
Yeah, one of the things that that I love doing, and I do this with people pretty frequently. So when we go out and we do endurance events, what they'll do a lot of times, and I thought at first it was just a way to be mean to us, while we're doing these things. So they would steal your socks and your shoes, and they would make sure that you didn't have those, and then make you hike like 10, 15 miles with no shoes on. So, I mean, if you are not prepared for that, it is quite an endeavor, because typically our feet, because we wear shoes all the time, are not prepared for that kind of mileage on up the side of a mountain. Even though there was this awesome guy that was with us he does that all the time. He's barefoot all the time. He was out in, a foot of snow with no shoes on. And then he was like, it's a little bit cold now. I'm going to put some socks on. So he wore socks the rest of the way. And just an awesome, awesome guy. But what I learned through that is, even in that difficulty, when that happened, there was a grounding and a calm that came.
Right.
Because I was rebalancing myself, because I was getting to that place where I was grounded again, and I wasn't, relying on, the insoles in my shoes to take care of me. I was allowing the earth to really give me what I needed, and remaining in connection with that. And there is something about that that allows us to really find that balance again. And I think that that's amazing. I have a book that's sitting on my shelf across from me called Earthing. And in that, they talk all about those things that you can do to really reconnect with the environment that we're in, because we need that. We were joking around on another call talking about hugging a tree, right? But there are positive benefits from that allow us to connect with the earth that we're around, that helps rebalance our bodies and recalibrate us.
Absolutely. It's another one of our crucial components to how we function that we're still largely ignorant about, but is important and really makes a significant difference. And it has to do, again, with how we evolved for millions of years in the environment that we inhabited up until very recently. We haven't caught up yet.
Yeah.
With the changes that we've made to our surroundings. And so scalar frequency is another area of science that it's very interesting, and it's broad, because depending on how you engage it or how you measure it, you affect it. And again, it's much like, when you strike a tuning fork and objects in the vicinity also vibrate. This is how we are responding to each other and the objects in our vicinity. And so scalar frequency is one of those frequencies that has the advantage of, when we come into contact with it, it helps to put us back into optimum for the human frequency. And we actually have devised a pendant that emits scalar frequency in combination with negative ions and far infrared. Far infrared is another beneficial frequency. When we generate body heat, we're actually generating body heat in the frequency of far infrared. It's a frequency that's natural to us. And depending on how we come into contact with it, it has different health benefits. When we come into contact with far infrared in the form of a sauna, the kind of sweat that we generate actually allows us to eliminate heavy metals and toxins on a whole nother level than we otherwise would have. When we come into contact with far infrared, in the case of the pendant that I'm wearing, which we call the energy lava pendant, it actually interacts with our metabolic functioning, how efficiently we generate energy from the food that we consume, glandular health, hormone regulation, which directly affects our moods and how we respond to the triggers, the crises, the everyday, experience of life are directly affected by our bodies generating chemicals and hormones and how quickly we settle down or calm or are able to respond to a crisis. All of these also are affected by glandular health and hormone regulation.
So right behind my computer right now, and you can't see this because you're looking at me, but right behind it, I have my far infrared sauna. So I have one in my house,
Lovely.
and I use it quite frequently, especially like when I do an event and I really need my body to relax and release all of that stuff. I'll get in there and I'll sit in there for 20 minutes and just allow all that to come out.
Yes.
There was another thing that you mentioned in there that I think is really neat. You know, we talk about vibration, right? And everything has a vibration. What's incredible about that is we often get those feelings like, okay, that's the one, right? This is perfect. This is for me. What I've found is that's because it's vibrating at a similar frequency to us. So we're automatically attracted to that thing, or to that person, or to that object. You know, like for example, I have a stone here, a crystal that I got at Victory of Light while we were there. And it was one of those things. I walked up to it and I knew that was the one, right? Because it is vibrating at a very similar frequency to me. I just happened to notice that you have a bowl behind you, like a singing bowl. We were talking about that. I have my singing bowl right next to me. And when I found this, I was in oddest place of all. I was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Like, who buys singing bowls in Gatlinburg? But I was at a little tea shop there, and they had these bowls. And I was in there, and I was like, oh my goodness, I want to get one. So I was testing them out. And this specific one, I started playing it, and it was that tone that resonated with me, that was at the same frequency. And I was like, this is the one. I didn't buy it then. Like, I walked around, I was like, maybe I'll find something better. I couldn't find anything better. I ended up going back to that store literally 2 minutes before they closed to go buy it. And the lady had already shut down the drawer, and she was like, oh my God. She was like, I think I could still do this transaction. I was like, you better, because I need this bowl. So I got it, and it has been incredible. It is those things that resonate with us because of all of those frequencies that we have. Those are the people that we attract into our lives because of the frequencies that we have. It's really, really interesting.
I think that when we talk about the way that we interact with others and we refer to it as chemistry, I think that this is a really accurate depiction, because my chemistry, my frequency interacts with your frequency, and we now between us generate our frequency, our chemistry. And it is a very it is a physical phenomenon. It isn't just a spiritual concept that people float around. This is something that is very significant, and something that everyone experiences throughout their entire lives.
Yeah, we often think, and it's interesting at a place like Victory of Light, where we're talking about a lot of very spiritual, very esoteric things, that there is to all of those things. There is a very physical component, right? There is, it bears light in the physicality of it, because, whether it is thoughts that we're having, because those end up producing whatever it is that we're searching for, whether it's positive or negative. It bears fruit in real life, right? So if we're thinking that, oh my God, I'm going to have a terrible day, what happens, right? We end up having a very challenging day, because it is what we are thinking. It's that frequency that we have, and we're attracting the physical part of that to ourselves. There's always a physical component to everything, even if it's just in your mind. That's still very physical. And I think we forget that.
Yes, there's absolutely scientific explanation and foundation for all of these principles and these practices, even ancient practices. An example that also relates to our area of science is the Native American practice of burning sage to clear an environment or uplift the energy of the space. There's actually a scientific foundation for this practice. When you burn sage, this is another natural generation of negative ions, and it is physically uplifting, literally.
Interesting. I was not aware of that. That's really an interesting awareness. You know, yeah, everything that we have, there is a very clear explanation for those things. And I think sometimes it's just bringing awareness to that and how that is really affecting our lives, because everything that we come in contact with is affecting us in some way, whether it's people, whether it's devices, all of those things have an impact on us. And it is us.
Not an emotional impact, but a physical impact.
Yeah.
A biological impact.
We have a choice to allow those things to continue coming into our lives. Like, for example, you know, you go in to a place and there's people there, and immediately you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach. It's a very physical reaction to the energies that are around us, right? Or you all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this is the perfect place for me. It's a very physical reaction to the energies that are around us and how they are interacting with our own energy. Yeah, so really neat.
Yeah, you mentioned how you use the far infrared sauna to recover more rapidly, almost to reset. I have, on a small level, but very regularly, a similar experience from another one of our products, which is actually just a tourmaline mineral cleanser, a soap that is made from tourmaline. And tourmaline is a mineral whose properties are to generate negative ions and far infrared. And this is a phenomenon that's generated through what's called a piezoelectric reaction, which is a reaction that minerals in the crystal family have when subjected to even the slightest shift in barometric pressure or temperature. They generate a charge. And so in our devices, what we do is we pulverize these minerals and we end up with far more surface area, millions of particles, millions of charges. And so for therapeutic purposes, we can create truly potent devices, something far more potent than you would get from simply a large crystal of the same mineral. In fact, I can give you an example. This is a tourmaline log. Okay, this is a giant chunk of black tourmaline. And I'll do sometimes a muscle, a strength test, a balance test. I can get a far, far more potent, stronger result from this pendant, this tiny little pendant, than I can from this giant log when I'm doing a strength comparison with one or the other. But back to the far infrared and how, you know, how significant it is in recovery and in the body's ability to recharge. We make a tourmaline soap that generates far infrared and negative ions. And when I'm in the shower and I'm all lathered up and the water's running and the negative ions are flying and the far infrared is getting actually conducted even more significantly through, you know, the water, I really do feel a kind of a reset that occurs. And it's just another phenomenal way that we can put these principles, these elements, these components to work, to use for us in our daily lives. It's all around us. These are natural phenomena that simply need to be employed to our benefit. You can incorporate it into a soap that you can use to rebalance your body's electromagnetic field, to amplify far infrared and support metabolic processes and the body's ability to recover. You can employ it in therapeutic devices such as a back support belt that actually generates far infrared that heats up against your body. And you wouldn't suspect, and it's something that really needs to be experienced in order to believe, I think. It's very easy to imagine how far infrared can be generated electronically, which is how we do it with a sauna or a far infrared heater. But you can actually generate far infrared through minerals. And when worn against the body, in the case of the belt, the water molecules in your skin conduct and excite the far infrared waves. And that's how this heat is generated between yourself and the belt. And after a while, it starts to feel like a hot pad, like an actual heat pack. It's very significant. And that will keep the muscles loose, the circulation flowing. And anytime we increase circulation, we're also accelerating the body's ability to heal itself, because we're accelerating the rate at which nutrients circulate to the area and the rate at which toxins can be eliminated. So this naturally and immediately starts to accelerate the healing process, which is especially crucial for people suffering back issues.
It's the same idea, where you get a TENS unit, right, to promote healing, because you're, using that the electric shock to stimulate the capillaries and everything to promote blood flow in that area, so that blood gets there and really promotes that healing process. So it's it's incredible that there are so many ways to do that. Right? It's almost everywhere. But the problem is that the awareness about those things, hence why we're talking about it now, right, is making sure that there is awareness, because there are all these things out there that are available for us to get us to that place where we're able to recover better, we're able to think better, where we're able to expand ourselves. And often we're not using it for whatever reason. And I think it's important to have that awareness and to be able to see it for what it is, because there is so much evolution in technology. There's as much, and we're now catching up with this part of technology, whereas computers and everything else have shot off. And, within the last 50 years, we've evolved, more than the last 2,000 years, like in the last 50. So, really learning and growing and allowing that to catch up and providing that awareness that there are ways to promote these things in your own body, and so you can get better.
Absolutely. And that's really what we're all about, spreading the word and educating people. And it's working. 8 years ago is when I actually joined my parents, who founded this company probably a dozen years ago now. And at that time, when I would talk to doctors who would come, speak to me and look at my products, they would often at that time say, well, show me the research. And I found this to be funny, because they're the doctors, they should do their own research. And so I would say, go, the research is there. Go to Harvard Medical Studies. These principles have been researched now. Negative ions were discovered right along with the atom. We have over 100 years of research on negative ions. This is no longer fringe science. A lot of hospitals employ negative ion chambers, especially hospitals that have advanced burn units. They found that they can accelerate healing in burn victims by 60, 70% sometimes. The military has done a lot of experiments with negative ion treatments and soldiers who suffer post-traumatic stress disorder, and found that with regular negative ion treatments, they can actually replace a lot of the psychiatric drugs that they were using to treat the disorder.
What's incredible about that is that treating that you have zero side effects versus the medication that we're taking that has a laundry list of side effects, including death and brain hemorrhaging. And like,
Right.
why in the hell would I want to do that if
Right.
I could use something else that is completely natural, that has zero negative effects on me to support that rather than giving myself something that is literally poisoning the rest of my body? Yes, it may help me with this one area, but then when I start having delusions and all these other physical symptoms, like it's just medicine is so crazy to me when I look at it. Now, I'm not saying that you should get rid of all medicine and that there are some people that really need that it's next to impossible. They need to rebalance things in their brain or the chemicals that are firing. They need support for that. We need those things. We need those advancements. But there are so many people that are using medication as a crutch to not do what they could be doing to be healthy and to be safe. And they're allowing their bodies to just get ravaged. Like, I watch my dad, and I love him to death. He's on so many different medications for his health that he's taking one medication for his cholesterol, but then that medication has 3 different side effects that now he's taking 4 or 5 other medications to support those side effects. It's crazy.
It's a never-ending story and a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And fortunately, this type of technology really just supports everything that we're doing for our health. It actually even makes medication more readily, more efficiently assimilated by the body. In fact, I often, when I know a person is taking a lot of medications, especially when it comes to medications that have to do with glandular health, like thyroid medication, and I know that people run the risk of actually taking too much of their medications, I let them know, just, be conscious of the fact that you will assimilate your medications better. And you might want to talk with your doctor about adjusting doses if you feel like your medications are too strong because your body is actually assimilating and using them more efficiently. So, regardless of what we're doing in order to help ourselves and be healthy people, we really need to take these fundamental factors into consideration. It's as crucial as good nutrition and healthy sleep and clean air and clean water and enough water. It's one of those very crucial components, as important as breathing, to how we function.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh man, thank you for coming on here and giving us this wealth of information and just really sharing with us all these things that you've learned and all the products that you're able to produce to be able to help that. So the last question that I have is, tell us how to find you so that we can get more information.
Absolutely. Well, you can find us on our website. We are Quantum Performance USA. And it's Quantum Tech USA. You can simply Google Quantum Tech USA, and our website is quantumperformanceusa.com. And hopefully we can share a link with this interview to the website.
Yeah.
And also our email. We're happy to take questions and speak directly with people. If anybody ever has concerns or wonders about which product might be right for them, they can simply call the phone number on our website and reach us directly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on this call with me and sharing with me. I look forward to talking to you again soon. And I will. We'll get it together.
Wonderful. It's been great talking to you, Jeff. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.